Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to From the Depths. This episode, is episode 2 of the survival series that I'm doing where I'm operating with a submarine. As you can see, it doesn't quite look like, well, it looks a bit like a sub. It just doesn't really have a conning tower. And as I have established in episode 1, I only have one torpedo launcher. I did add a second torpedo gantry, medium torpedo gantry, because this is going to allow the craft to be a bit more stable. She was pulling a bit to the right because she was out of balance. Now at this point I've picked up another 10,000 materials after, well, not necessarily securing all the kills myself, but at least going out there and harvesting the resources. So that allows me to start building some more. I've also made a small change here to the stern. I'm now using a medium 5-meter propeller, which is being driven by a medium crank motor over here. And this one is providing the power. The energy is provided still by the the small turbine, and that's powering this small turbine generator, driving power into my batteries. Anyway, what I want to work on is a system that will allow me to launch vertical missiles. So we're going to need a submarine that's quite a bit taller. Because vertical missiles, well, the term kind of implies it. You need those things to be vertical. So it's time to start replacing a few of the blocks here. And this is going to happen a lot. She's going to look a little bit more boxy right now. So be it. But I would really like the room to have those missiles. And with 10,000 supplies, you can get quite far. Now what I did with my craft was add camouflage textures. You can do this by pressing V and then going to the camouflage textures tab. But for now I just want this thing off. Because it makes it... Hello? Oh, here. Camo night. It makes it a bit easier, there we go, to see what blocks you're working on and how you should adjust those. Now as long as I can get one torpedo launcher or even a vertical missile launcher on this craft, it's already better than it was. Because that will allow it to just do more damage. And of course, I can sort of sit around and, in a way, like a predator, harvest off, well, not so much a predator, maybe more like a carrion. A carrion vulture. I can harvest stuff that gets killed off by other craft. It's not necessarily the most impressive way to play the game, but the name of the game is adventure, survival. You gotta find a way to survive. And credit where credit is due, vultures always find a way to survive. So, let's work on the stern here a bit. I'm going to have to do quite a bit of overhauling. That is something that I find can be a bit frustrating with a sub. It's not easy to just remove some parts. If you're doing surgery, you're usually doing a lot of it. You're adjusting a larger portion of the craft. Now, come to think of it, this whole part, I want the sub to also be wider. So this is not necessarily bad, but I should start with the width. And then the height. Because otherwise I'm just going to be building some sort of, well, sideways surfboard, if you will. Which is really not going to look too good. And I know that it is adventure mode and looks aren't everything. If you can survive, great. If you can make it look good while you're surviving, all the better. But I would like to at least have a couple of videos on this series, preferably a bunch of them, provided I live long enough. Anyway, I would like to have quite a few vids where I not only have survived, but where the craft also looks good. Alright, we're going to remove these hatches. And this whole part is going to have to come off. And let's see, if I want to make it taller, I should also work on the nose. So this thing's cut here, cut here. There we go, that's floating off. Right. The more hydrodynamic I make this thing, the better it will be. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to go with quite a few more 2-meter angles here. Well, we can't quite continue working backwards all the way, because it's going to interfere with... Well, sorry, no, it's not going to interfere with, but I simply don't have any parts to attach it to. That's what I should be saying. Now, by making it wider, I'm working on making it more cylindrical as well. And through that, I hope to have more of a vertical build. How do you put that? Have more height to the sub. Let me put it that way. And let's say I have more height. I have 12,000 materials. That should be plenty. Plenty to build. There. If I now close this part up, I not only have enough room for vertical missile launchers, but potentially, later on, when I can afford them, also for larger torpedo launchers. That's the plan. Ideally, I would want a huge torpedo launcher on this craft. Those, however, are really expensive. So it's something that's going to happen, if it happens at all, it's going to happen far later in the series, when I can actually afford something as extensive and expensive, rather, as that. I have tried it a bit, by the way, off camera, and those huge missiles, especially as a torpedo, they might cost you about 1,000 materials to launch, of course, depending very much upon the size of your craft. But good lord, they can one-shot almost anything. Not all the stuff instantly dies, but quite a lot of it does. And I think that's glorious. Because it just makes for such a satisfying explosion when those things finally do go off. When you do get a hit. And it means that you don't have to keep launching torpedoes after torpedo after torpedo. You just throw out one hit or one torpedo and it's pretty much GG for whatever you're hitting. Caveat, you don't hit flying targets with a torpedo. And that's why I'm building the sub out larger to ensure that I have room for the vertical missile launchers. Because those are going to be the ones that take out stuff that happens to be flying. Now, come to think of it, I am not quite doing this as I should. These should be slopes. And then these should be slopes. No, I should continue it a bit more. The pointier it is, the less water resistance I have. That's the plan. Alright, I'm going to do a bit more building off screen because this could take a while. Okay, a while later, I'm quite far into the build process. I'm going to finish this part off along with you because this is something that I struggled with a bit. You might with as well, and that's why I'm showing it on cam. Now, what you can see over here, this is the original hull of the submarine. This is the new hull of the submarine, so she is remarkably larger. And with that, it's sort of future-proofing. I mean, the way that I have this thing set up is that I don't want to be overhauling the whole ship let's say every second episode. That would just be a colossal waste of my time. So what I'm going to do instead is build something that's already very large, thereby having quite a lot of spare room, and using that spare room to install all sorts of systems as and when I'm going to need them, such as the large torpedo launchers. They'll get added later. But large materials storage, containers for example, those I can already install. And just having those on is already going to make my life quite a bit easier. Now, these are the old torpedo launcher that I had. Here we go. Gotta keep some of the material storage on. Anyway, let's continue with the stern. The way that I'm doing this is sort of a reverse of the bow. So I'm working with a line of 2 blocks here. These are 2-meter beams, or 2-meter triangles, and then inverted. So I'm going with 1, 2, and then here. And then another triangle corner. And that one goes, yeah, 1, 2, whoops, 3. And now it perfectly lines up with this part, so long as I have 1 more of these. Here, here, and here. Close that up with a 2-meter beam. There. This is going to be the, let's say, the stern. And I'm going to keep the stern fairly wide to allow for double propulsion. Considering the size of this behemoth, I'm probably going to need more than 1 prop to drive her. Because I think that 1 propeller is... It might do it, but it's probably a bit on the light end. And that's why I'm going to go with 2. I don't quite like how this is turning out. I have 1, 2, 3. Hold on, cancel that, replace that. And then we'll just go with this. And then another inverted beam here. There we go. All right. Then a couple of beams down here. I really hope that I have enough materials left, by the way, to continue on with building this craft. If not, I'm going to have to revert quite a bit of work. Now, the stern for now will remain wide for reasons aforementioned. Future expansion plans. So this is going to be the width of the stern of the sub. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Go here. Put that over there. I'm going to go with a 2 and a 1. That looks like a 3. Yeah. Let's see how far we can get with 4-meter beams. Quite far. Nah, it's not quite aligned, so it's going to have to be a single one down there. And again, this is not a permanent solution. It's more of a temporary stopgap measure, if you will. So long as it seals the hull, that's the priority. And that's, well, if it can do that, it's doing its job well enough. There we go. That is our huge hull. Currently we are at, I think, maximum depth. We're at 500 meters. And considering that I knocked off all of the PIDs, we're not even generating any kind of pump momentum anymore. Actually, I'm not even sure if we still have a pump. If it is, it's hiding between these things. But I think I knocked it off. So let's start with a couple of compartments, or at least ideally I would like to set up the baselines of one, because I can't afford them. They're simply too expensive for what I want to do right now. So these are going to be the lines of the compartments, and that way when I have the materials I'll know that I can start building components over there. Alright, let's go with a layer of wood. Yes, believe it or not. A layer of wood down here. Because this is where my AI is eventually going to live. And I would like to have that AI be not so susceptible to getting fried. Then resources, material storage, start with the end in mind. We're going to go for large material storages. And I'm going to put those pretty far towards the middle of the hull here. Now I can hold 124,000 in materials. And because those containers can hold everything, I can remove these material containers, cleaning up the part a little bit. Next, we're going to remove the batteries. And of course that medium crank motor that was still out there. We're going to remove the electric motor. And at some point I'll also, and I don't really like doing it because it means wasting resources, I'll have to look into getting rid of the steam. But the moment you start removing a steam boiler... Or actually, no, I don't really need to do that just yet. To save some materials for now. No, I can possibly get away with it. Let's go for 2 of these boys. And let's see, I'm gonna have to go with a medium shaft that goes through there. This is pretty much behind the center of mass. And it's gonna have a couple of these propellers. Those things are then going to get driven by these. There we go. So if I press... Yeah, if I press U, nothing happens, because as much as these medium crank motors would like to work, they don't have any power. So they just don't do anything. Alright, we're gonna go with a pretty large rudder. I mean, it's a large sub, she's a big girl. And I would like her to turn. Ideally, relatively quickly. Metal, for me to beam. Heartstone still charging, that's something that's critical, by the way. Resources, battery storage, let's go with the medium storage. And put that... Or you know what, we can just house these beams here. That's going to be 1 and 2. And then, whoops, an electric engine. Remove that. There we go. We have 700 power available. Now, of course, we're going to need a few more things. Yeah, look at that. I'm completely in the sand. At least I won't have to worry about getting hit unless something starts dropping torpedoes on me. But in my experience, that doesn't happen very often. We're going to need hydrofoils. Where's the bow? Here's the bow. Like that. I'm going to relocate the command center. Or actually, no, I'm not. The command center is quite good where it is. I just need to ensure that the PIDs are working again. This is the propulsion roll, still working with roll thrusters. The roll thrusters which are not actually on the ship anymore. So we're going to set up a couple of new propellers over here on the sides. Not that way, preferably pointing that way. You're going to work with roller presets. And the other one here. So these two will work with roll. Right now there's not that much to roll. And then over here I need a small expansion so that I can put up another PID. And that PID, let's see, I had my chair in front of it. And then a PID. This PID, come here, controls the altitude above mean sea level, air pump, required depth, let's say minus 100. And then finally add an air pump. There. Submerged is 4100. And we are coming off of the bottom. Depth, 455 feet, or 455 meters, and climbing pretty quick. Now there are some parts that I can take off here. These, for example. These material containers I no longer need. These things I no longer need. That is part of the control room. I could at least make these things a bit more obvious. Like this is part of the controls. Don't touch it. It's part of the conning center. Put my little drone back in its seat. There we go. We are now at minus 200. Very good. Now, I have propulsion. I have maneuverability. I'm countering roll. Let's go with a bit of speed. Main drive's 8%. We're doing 12 meters per second. These props are turning very, very, very slowly. Altitude, minus 101. Excellent. Now, time to add some torpedo launchers. For now, they'll be small launchers. Or medium missiles, that is. Which for a thing this size, I kind of consider small. Because the large missiles are simply unaffordable. So, medium-hatched gantry. We're going to take off these parts. We're going to set that thing off over there. Oh, something has an AI dead behind me. That's nice. Because that means resources to pick up. I didn't quite get the kill, but I don't mind about that. Then, missiles, medium, gantries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should for now be enough. I'm very much looking at the price tag of these things. And by price tag, I mean how expensive is the whole missile launcher setup. Not so much the torpedoes themselves. How expensive is the missile launcher? IFF on it. That's the IFF. Stagger fire it on down here. We're going to set that to a second. Now let's check on the torpedoes. We have a torpedo propeller. One set of fins is usually enough. Prediction guidance. We're going to lead with the torpedo sonar. I want to have a... I don't really need a turning thruster underwater. Explosive warheads. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to need a ballast tank. It now has 150 seconds of thrust. That's quite long. Let's go with the regulator. 120 out of 80 seconds. So we can go faster. And that right there is 80 seconds times 64 meters. That's about 5 clicks. It's about 5 clicks. But that actually... yeah, no, that's fine. I can use all the fuel. The torpedoes travel at 64 meters per second. Yeah, I can make this work. Okay, you're weapon 1. Now, let's see if she wants to maneuver at all. We have some parts in front. 3,900, 1,900, 999. There's something flying around here. A current. Its altitude, 193. I can't hit that. Aerial craft. But I could hit this, the pulverizer. My good old friend, the pulverizer. So, let's set drive speed. 23%. And this is the new and improved submarine. Massive amounts of room for weapon systems. Massive amount of room for expansion. I can improve the propulsion systems, for example. I can generate more steam should I need it. It has a lot of options. And that's how I like my craft. With options. Because you never know when you get a really big thing killed. And get a lot of materials from it. And then, boom, you can start building a lot more. Now, let's go a little less deep than minus 100. We're going to go to minus 35. 35 meters depth. Should be sufficient. I don't think it's worth launching my torpedoes at the moment, because I probably couldn't hit anything even if I wanted to. Now, if I go full speed, main drive to 100... I am getting about 12 meters per second. Not terrible. Not terrible. Craft seems stable. I'm not rolling. Any roll is being counteracted by the PID that uses these propellers on the sides. Any pitch problems are being counteracted by the hydrofoils. And depth is being managed by the air pump. So all is good in the submarine. Now I just need targets. I need to pick up some supplies here. And then I might be able to build at least one missile launcher. Oh, the pulverizer's ahead. There we go, it's 4,000 meters out. We can probably hit that. I'm going to send both torpedoes, but I won't be following them. Because it probably isn't quite worth it. Hearthstone charge is less. Okay. Yeah, because I probably don't have enough heartstones. That's fairly important. Craft gets larger, gotta get more heartstones. And I didn't make the thing just a bit larger, I made it a hell of a lot larger. Okay, we're back at 1,000. Oh, ammo stores are running low. Okay, let's fix that, because I will be using quite a bit of ammunition. Ammo boxes. Over here. I think that this is not that likely to get hit, this part. I mean, you never know, but that's my thinking. So I'm putting my ammo boxes down there, and that's giving me 450 ammo access. Now, let's start building a vertical missile launcher. A VLS. And we're going to do that off to the sides. Mirror mode on. Blocks. Missiles. Medium missiles. I'm probably going to only go for 2, at least initially. So I'm going to build these somewhere off where I could potentially have more later. And when the submarine is in motion, you're always got to try and keep in mind to have any leaks sealed as quickly as you make them, to ensure that you're not accidentally going to be bobbing up and down. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Launcher. I might as well put it on the deck. Gantry. Connectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then a couple of ejector add-ons. I find that these with submarines are fairly important, because they allow your missile, especially if you're trying to build a surface missile, to go up. And especially in combination with the way that I set these things up, it usually works fairly well. Now, it's going to be a variable thruster, a fuel tank in the back, or 2 probably. Over here in the front, I'm going to have the turning thruster. Turning thrusters do use a bit of fuel, but they are quite efficient in making a thing turn really, really quickly. I'm going to set the variable thruster to have a start delay of 2 seconds. So I first want this thing to clear the water. And then it's going to ramp up in 3 seconds. And I want the thrust before locking on to be a mere 30%. Now, what I want to do with these things is shoot down aerial units. So I'm going to go for frag warheads, and a lot of them. They will need a prediction guidance, come to think of it. And maybe an extra lifetime, so an extra regulator. 40-second lifetime. Thrust duration to 60 seconds. So at this range, with this lifetime, or this thrust duration, I could hit something out to a range of well over 6 kilometers. But that's with all these fuel tanks. And I still want to have at least one more frag head. If I go for one more, 36.7 seconds. Yeah, still not bad. Decent range. Alright, these frag heads, we're going to set these at 20 degrees. So that all the frag warheads, or the frag particles, are going to get fairly well directed into what could be the death of a flying target. Because the moment that this thing happens to come into contact with frag particles, I might blow off something that's causing it to fly. Activator seeker, check. Yeah. These won't actually need an IFF, because it's exceptionally unlikely that they'll be able to hit me. It's possible, but something must have gone horribly, horribly, horribly wrong if these things are capable of finding me. What I do want is a staggered fire add-on, and I'm going to set these things up with a second delay. Oh, hold on, we're missing a missile launcher. I was down the middle. Okay, that's fine. Can I afford it? Oh, barely. Okay, we're just going to have to go with one of these missile launchers then. Is there anything near... Oh, there's a pulverizer ahead. I just saw that. I'm actually not unhappy about it either. Because that pulverizer could be my ticket to building that missile launcher out. Let's slow down. I don't want to overshoot my target. Come on. Hit. And that's your propulsion gone? Maybe? No, propulsion survived. Okay, buddy. Now, I'm a fairly large craft, which means that the pulverizer might actually be able to hit me. I hope not, but you never know. So I might have to go down a little bit more, but ideally I just want to kill this thing as quickly as I can. I think that knocked off his propulsion. Because I'm not seeing it moving anymore. Yeah. It also uses a crank motor, but it cannot use it anymore. And of course, the more that I damage the craft, the more resources that I get from it. And that's exactly what I need. More resources, more stuff to build. Now, this thing has a metal hull, I believe. Which means that it can take quite a few hits. What I could do is swap them to EMP. And thereby maybe fry their systems. It's worth a shot. It's even worth 2. Because if I can fry their systems, maybe that's going to go faster than just trying to blow this thing apart bit by bit. How much EMP damage can I get? About 3,500 from this. 4.9. Starting to lose some parts. There's 3,200 there. What's your depth? I don't know. Doesn't say about altitude. So it's probably on the surface. Or fairly close to the surface. Keep hitting the metal triangles. So that I can just get that EMP damage to spread throughout the craft. Yeah, we're up to 1,100 materials, so we definitely fried something important. 9k. We got 1,500 in materials now. I really want to do a test at that vertical launch system. Let's do it. Okay, weapon open. Here we go. It's going to shoot out. Then it's going to look for something. It's going to turn, and then it accelerates. It locks on. It just happens to lock on to something 7 kilometers away. Which even... Oh, actually, no. 4.5 kilometers away, which I think it should be able to get to. But it seems like the missile's not quite sure what to go for yet. And I'm not sure if the turning thruster is powerful enough. So I might need to add 1 fin to it. To ensure that it's going to be a bit more efficient. Yeah, I think it's going to run out of fuel. Still, it traveled a decent amount. What is that? Laco? I'm not sure if that's the target that I was looking for. Anyway, we still have one of the bad guys in front of us here. I think. Yeah, pulverizer's still there. A mere 800 meters away from my craft. I'm closing in on it. Logically, because it doesn't have any propulsion anymore. 8k damage. Mostly EMP. What do you still have left, buddy? Because at this point there really shouldn't be that much left on this craft. You'd think that I would have fried most of it. Not so. So we're just going to keep launching missiles at it. Or torpedoes to be exact. Until it dies. Or maybe until it fries. How much do you have left? 87. I'm going to save this as my alpha torpedo. I'm going to make a Bravo type, which is going to be far more straightforward. Explosives all the way. I'm going to take the regulator off, because it doesn't have to live very long. Thrust can even be higher. There. Short range torpedo. These things now do a lot more damage in the form of high explosive. Let's see if it's enough. There we go. Now we're making an impact, and it seems like the craft is going out of control. There we go, the AI is dead. So how much are you going to leave behind there for me, friend? What do you have? You have 6,500. That is very generous indeed. Because that will allow me to get all sorts of nice upgrades. Now, back to the missile launchers on the back. I still needed a launch pad for the medium missiles. Like that. And then this one is going to use a fin in the back instead of one frag warhead. Although, no, I should put that here and then the fuel tank here, because the farther you place fins to the back, the better they work. Alright. Weapon test again. Weapon 2. There is a surface craft out there. It turns, and it locks on. Ripper, 2,500 meters out. It keeps swapping targets the moment that it finds something else. Now it finds the conduit, back to the Ripper. It should continuously switch targets. It's not an ideal use of resources. Ah, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Turn! No, not fast enough. And now I cannot turn towards it at all. So now it's going to target the current. Alright, once again, I want to see if I can hit that Ripper. And what it can do with, or against, frag particles. I think that the moment that the Ripper moves into the water, I lose it. That's the problem. This thing sometimes presents a profile as a surface target, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, my missiles lose it. I think that that's just what's going on. Now, what I can do is try to get closer to it, but I don't think I have the engine power for that. But I do have 11,000 materials. So, time for a bit more power. Large battery storage. I'm going to mount one of these things on each side. Or actually, I could just replace the top battery with that. 330,000 material, or power available. I'm burning a little more than I'm actually using. I wouldn't be actually surprised if I'm not... No, I might be able to go a bit faster now. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 60 meters per second. 18. 19 meters per second. Pretty good. I'm burning a lot of power, so I cannot keep this sprint speed up, if you will, for very long. But for now, it's going to work. Alright, let's go back to 25%. And see, the torpedo also has it. The torpedo also loses line of sight of the Ripper. This is going to be an interesting target to kill, considering how it keeps changing. Come on. If I can immobilize it, a torpedo will catch it. Get it? Oh, you missed it. You missed it. I really like that animation. The way that thing just goes and turns and then locks onto the target. And hit. Somewhat. About 4.5. But it keeps bobbing up and down. Slow. I just want to see that again. Look at that. Turns. And throttles up. I can probably ramp down or ramp up faster. Oh! That needs to change. That last bit, it just doesn't turn fast enough. So we're going to set another fin here at the expense of more frag damage. But I just need more turn. And I could make them slower by quite a bit, just to see how this is going to work. Nope. Lost it. Locked it. Lost it. Found it again. Come on. Good. That's at least one of your Yeah, that knocked out one of your propulsion units. I think we took care of a jet. Spinning up. Come on, Ripper. If I can hit it on the top, that'd be great. Yes, there! You seem to have some problems. Shame if something happened to you, huh? No, don't target the Laco, target the Ripper. Health below 80% and sinking. Target destroyed. That's the Ripper. And that was the Ripper. And now there's 3,700 materials over there. I consider this an absolute win. So, with that, the good news is the ship has been killed off. The bad news is you have reached the end of the episode. Lots more to come. More missiles, bigger torpedoes, and overall, potentially, more, well, let's say guaranteed, more kills. Join me next time. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon for the next part.